Welcome to another episode of Beautiful, Bad and Bizarre. Today we're visiting Mortlake Crematorium to remember the life of the remarkable actress Liz Fraser. Join me as we honour her memory, bring flowers to her final resting place and commemorate her wonderful career.
Dan? Do you mind me asking you something?
Of course not.
Cross your heart.
Cross my heart.
Are them your own teeth?
Elizabeth Joan Winch was born over a shop at 165 Harper Road, just off the New Kent Road in Southwark, London, on August the 14th, 1930. She was lovingly known as Betty to her family and friends, but to the world she would later be celebrated as Liz Fraser, a name that became synonymous with comedy classics, including the beloved Carry On films. Her parents, Frank John Winch and Elizabeth Martha Hook, had an age gap of 10 years, with Elizabeth being the elder. They married in 1928, 2 years before Liz was born. Liz also had an older brother, Philip, who was 11 years her senior. But at the age of 11, Liz discovered a surprising family secret. Philip wasn't her full brother, he was actually her half-brother. Her mother had been previously married to a young Irishman named McGoldrick, who tragically passed away in his early 20s. The revelation came during World War II when Liz innocently addressed a letter to her brother as Philip Winch, only to learn that his surname was actually McGoldrick. This unexpected discovery added a poignant twist to Liz's family story, shaping the fascinating backdrop of her early life. Hers was a very happy family life. Her father, Frank, was a travelling salesman for a brewery that supplied the greyhound tracks, which meant visits to the greyhound racing as a regular family outing. Liz would say in her autobiography, Liz Fraser and Other Characters, details of which I will pin to the top of the comment section for this video, "I simply loved the dogs, and those memories remain among my happiest." Liz's childhood was nothing short of a delightful zoo. She grew up surrounded by a quirky menagerie of pets that ignited a lifelong love for animals, a passion that would stay with her and even leave a lasting legacy, as we'll discover later. Among her furry and feathered friends were Janie, a retired greyhound, Billy, a beloved chicken, Norman, a stoic tortoise, Cyril, a shimmering goldfish, and Ollie, the family cat. Her bond with her pets ran so deep that for years Liz couldn't bring herself to eat chicken, just in case she ever discovered Billy had ended up on her plate. Liz's father played a central role in her young life, taking her everywhere and sharing precious moments together. Meanwhile, her mother had a single-minded devotion to her shop, which Liz affectionately described as her mother's world. This dynamic shaped Liz's childhood, giving her a blend of adventure, love for animals, and an insight into hard work. Liz's parents took great pride in making sure she was always beautifully dressed as a child. While her mother focused on running the shop, Liz's father filled her weekends with special adventures. Together they would wander through bustling spots like Petticoat Lane, where he would treat Liz to seasonal delights, ice cream in the summer or piping hot chestnuts in the colder months, while indulging himself with a pot of whelks, a seafood delicacy not for the faint-hearted. Their outings didn't stop there. Father and daughter would often enjoy the lively sounds of the brass bands along the embankment, creating memories full of music and laughter. Evenings at home were family time, spent around the table playing a card game called Nap. Liz later credited these cosy card nights as the beginning of her love for bridge, a passion that would follow her into adulthood. When Liz Fraser came into the world, she sadly never had the chance to meet her grandparents, as they had all passed away by the time she was born. Tragically, her maternal grandfather had taken his own life in Deptford Canal, a sombre chapter in her family history. Despite these shadows, Liz's childhood was brightened by cherished family getaways. She fondly remembered seaside holidays in Ramsgate, exciting day trips to Brighton, and magical moments spent on the Isle of Wight. These joyful escapades left a lasting impression on young Liz, creating memories of laughter, sunshine, and the salty air of the British coast. Perfect inspiration for a future comedy star. In 1937, a serious ear infection saw young Liz spending time in Brook Street Hospital. Each morning, while in hospital, she bought a copy of the Daily Mirror from the hospital trolley, sparking a lifelong habit of reading daily newspapers. Even at just 5 years old, Liz was a bookworm, already devouring Enid Blyton stories and Just William, a love for reading that also stayed with her throughout her life. Liz's idyllic childhood took a dramatic turn in September 1939, shortly after her 9th birthday, with the outbreak of the Second World War. Her school, Harper Road School, evacuated its students to Crockham Hill in Kent. For Liz and her classmates, this felt like the start of a grand adventure filled with excitement and the unknown. Liz and 3 other girls were chosen to stay at a house called Northfield in Chartwell, Kent. The owners, Mr. and Mrs. Salisbury, were a childless couple who sent their housekeeper, Lily, married to the chauffeur, to select 4 children. Liz believed her polished appearance and smart outfit got her picked first. The house itself was a revelation to Liz. Each of the 4 children had their own bedroom, and the home, surrounded by lush grounds, was run by a full staff that included a chauffeur, housekeeper, cook, and gardener. It even had electricity and fresh flowers in every room, a luxury Liz had never experienced before. Winston Churchill occasionally visited the evacuees, and Liz fondly remembered how much she and the other children admired him. Liz stayed in touch with the Salisburys until the end of their lives. But as war moved closer to Kent, the entire school was re-evacuated, this time to Chudley in Devon. Liz's second placement with her friend Pam brought more adventures. She was thrilled by her new surroundings, even after Pam was sent home in 1941 at her mother's insistence, despite the ongoing air raids in London. Now left behind, Liz continued to thrive. She spent her days playing cards with her hosts, auntie and uncle, and indulging in Devonshire cream. She even admitted to pinching a feral kitten from a condemned litter, saving it from certain death. However, authorities soon discovered that Liz had been walking 9 miles a day to and from school on her own. Concerned for her safety, they decided she would need to live closer to the school. A school friend suggested Liz move in with her and her family, which included the friend's brother and mother. But this new arrangement quickly turned sour. When Liz's father came to visit, he was horrified to find his daughter covered in scabies and quickly realised she'd been placed with a lady of ill repute. Without hesitation, he removed her from the home and arranged for her to live with another childless couple in the village. This new placement turned out to be a happy one, as the couple were kind and respectable, and Liz soon settled in well. Tragically, that visit from her father would be their last. Shortly afterwards, he was sent to a sanatorium due to ill health. Liz remembered vividly the final time she saw him, waving goodbye as his train disappeared from view in March 1942. She had no idea that his goodbye kiss would be their last. He passed away in May, just 2 months later, at the age of 40 from tuberculosis. Liz was only 11 years old. Reflecting on that moment, she would later say, "The last time I saw my father was when he had moved me away from the village tart. He was the love of my life." Liz was devastated learning of his death. It was her headmaster that broke the heartbreaking news. As a tribute to her father, during assembly, the whole school sang Abide with Me, a hymn that would always bring tears to Liz's eyes. The loss of her father shattered her, and she longed to return home to London. Though London was still under constant threat, Liz's mother finally gave in and Liz returned to Harper's Road School. By then, many evacuees had made their way back despite the ongoing dangers of war. However, Liz's education had suffered during the years away, and her mother decided to transfer her, against Liz's wishes, to St Saviour's and St Olave's Grammar School for Girls. The school didn't offer her a scholarship as they felt educationally she wasn't up to it, so her mother had to pay for her education. Despite her initial resistance, Liz later credited the school for shaping her future. She graduated with excellent results, earning an A+ in both English literature and grammar, a testament to her resilience and determination to thrive, even after such a turbulent childhood. Drama was always a passion for Liz Fraser, even as a schoolgirl. By the age of 14, she had joined a drama group at Goldsmiths College, where her natural talent shone. Critics praised her performances, and it was even suggested that she pursue a drama scholarship at the prestigious London School of Dramatic Art. While Liz would later become famous for her delightful portrayal of ditzy blonde beauties on screen, make no mistake, she was anything but ditzy in real life, as we're about to discover. After finishing school, Liz took a practical route, enrolling at the City of London College to study commerce, bookkeeping, shorthand and typing. She even gained knowledge of the stock exchange, a skill that would come in handy later in her life. But her love of acting never wavered. She earned an evening scholarship to the London School of Dramatic Art, where she balanced working during the day with studying her craft at night. Now, here's where the story takes a twist. At the end of her 2-year course, students were required to perform 3 pieces: a drama, a comedy, and a mime, in front of agents and industry professionals. Liz blew everyone away with her dramatic performance, earning her first place. But comedy, she came dead last. One casting director even declared, "This student has no sense of comedy." But, as Liz's career would later prove, even the so-called experts can get it wrong. Kenneth Seal, the editor of Spotlight, strongly disagreed with the negative comedy comment, praising Liz's comedic timing. On the very same day, Liz also won the prestigious Michael Redgrave Prize for her mime performance, a clear indication that her versatility as a performer was already being recognised. Little did anyone know, Liz was just getting started, and she was about to prove that she had plenty of comedy in her after all. Liz was always on the hunt for her next big break in the theatre world. Despite her heart being set on the stage, her lightning-fast typing skills and impressive 85 words per minute caught the eye of many in the corporate world. It wasn't long before she was offered a much-coveted role as a personal assistant to the Member of Parliament for Rotherham. But Liz had no intention of building a career behind a desk. The job was just a means to an end, a way to keep her dreams alive while paying her way. She would never miss her weekly commitment, handing her mother £4 for housekeeping, a duty she fulfilled without fail. Determined to break into the theatre world, Liz took matters into her own hands. She placed an advert in The Stage, a newspaper for the entertainment industry, writing, "Drama student, just finished and would appreciate any work in a repertory company." She received 3 replies. 2 required her to pay for the opportunity, but the third offered her a job as an assistant stage manager with small acting roles for £4 and 10 shillings a week at a repertory company in Accrington. It was a pay cut from her typist job at £6 10 shillings per week, but for Liz, acting was everything. Without hesitation, she took the job. Her first role? A maid in Jane Eyre, and she spent 3 months with the company before bigger opportunities came knocking. One of them saw her working alongside comedy legend Arthur Askey in the pantomime Babes in the Wood at the Brighton Hippodrome. By 1953, Liz was touring in a controversial play called One Way Traffic, later renamed The Road to Shame, which featured nudity. Wanting her family's support, she booked seats for her mother and her brother, only to realise mid-performance that their seats were empty. Her brother later told her he had to take their mother home because the show was disgusting. During this period, Liz also became fascinated with spiritualism, hoping to connect with her late father. She believed that she did, and that he even gave her career advice. Not always accurate, but often eerily spot on. Liz's career continued to evolve. Performing at the Brighton Grand in review, she decided to shave a few years off her age, claiming she was born in 1933. It was also here that she changed her name. The producers weren't fond of Elizabeth Joan Winch and handed her a selection of biscuit names to choose from. She rejected Crawford and McVitie, settling instead on Fraser after a lesser-known Fraser shortbread, and so Liz Fraser was born. Over the years, Liz would go on to collaborate with nearly all of Britain's comedy icons on stage, radio, television and film. Her body of work is simply too vast to cover in a single video, with well over 100 credits to her name. I'll be highlighting here some of Liz's best known performances as well as some of my own personal favourites. As Liz's career gained momentum, she started picking up small roles as an extra with the BBC, earning around £6 per appearance. Then came a breakthrough, her first spoken line, in a scene with an auctioneer asking who will buy this beautiful vase. Liz confidently replied, "I will, I'll buy it," securing a well-earned £10 fee. Before long, she was appearing in films. One of her earliest screen roles came in 1954 when she featured in a promotional film for Pearl and Dean, advertising Butlins holiday camps. Her first significant film role was in the Ealing comedy Touch and Go, starring alongside Jack Hawkins and one of my personal favourites, Alfred Burke. For this, she was paid £10 a day for 10 days. In 1955, Liz made her television debut in Sixpenny Corner, the very first TV serial, appearing in 2 episodes alongside the wonderfully talented Patricia Dainton, who I absolutely adore. Today, we'd refer to Sixpenny Corner as a soap opera, though back then it was a groundbreaking new format. A year later, in 1956, Liz had the opportunity to work with the legendary Tony Hancock, a comedian she admired greatly. Their friendship became strong, even surviving an amusing moment when Hancock, slightly worse for wear, made a rather tipsy pass at her in a taxi. Liz turned him down with good humour, and they remained good friends. She appeared alongside him on the Tony Hancock Show on radio and later in 8 episodes of the television classic Hancock's Half Hour between 1956 and 1960.
Let me go. I'm under no obligation to you. You're all the same. A cheap dance and a fish supper and you think you own a girl.
More roles soon followed. In 1957, she made a guest appearance in the popular comedy The Army Game and went on to star in 10 episodes of Wacko, the hilarious sitcom which was set in a private school, featuring Jimmy Edwards. If you're interested in Jimmy's story, I have a dedicated video about him. Check the description of this video for the link. In Wacko, Liz played the school matron, a role that showcased her brilliant comedic timing. Her television career continued to flourish. She appeared in Educating Archie and had a recurring role in 3 episodes of Dixon of Dock Green, one of Britain's most beloved police dramas. And speaking of Dixon of Dock Green, I also have a video about its star, the wonderful Jack Warner. You'll find the link in the description of this video if you'd like to learn more. In her personal life, 1958 saw Liz marry her first husband, Peter Yonwin. Sadly, the marriage was doomed to failure and the couple divorced in 1960. By 1959, Liz had firmly established herself as one of Britain's top comedy actresses. Her talent was undeniable, earning her a BAFTA nomination for Most Promising Newcomer for her performance as Cynthia Kite in I'm All Right Jack, where she starred alongside the great Peter Sellers, who would persistently make a play for Liz, who resisted, but she felt that he often overstepped the mark. However, she would also say, Peter, being Peter, you just forgave him. On one occasion, according to Liz in her autobiography, she was invited to dinner in a restaurant with Peter for his birthday. However, when she arrived at his flat expecting to head off with him to the restaurant, Peter informed her they were eating in, just the two of them. He again made a pass at Liz in a most unfortunate way, and the evening became very awkward, but Liz would say that she did manage to get past it, and she had retained a grudging fondness for him. He could be awful, but there was something about him that she liked. In 1959, Liz met her future husband, the director, Bill Hitchcock, while working together on the TV series No Hiding Place. But here's a fun fact for those of you who follow the channel. Bill had previously directed Diana Dawes in the unusual Miss Mulberry, a quirky Avengers-style show. Sadly, the tapes of that series have long since been wiped, so it's a piece of Diana's TV history that's lost. I just can't help myself here again. If you're a regular viewer, you'll probably be expecting this little gem. In 1976, Liz herself had the chance to work with Diana Dawes in Adventures of a Taxi Driver.
Who do you think you are, Diana Dawes?
Now, back to Bill and Liz. Despite being offered opportunities to work in America, Liz was hesitant to leave. She worried that if she went, Bill, who was married when they first met, might return to his wife. The 1960s and 70s brought to Liz both professional success and personal happiness. In 1961 alone, she appeared in an impressive 8 films, including The Rebel with Tony Hancock and Double Bunk with Sid James, who she held in very high esteem, saying after his death, he never once tried anything obscene or nasty or intrusive. There was a play at the National several years ago where they made him out to be an absolutely horrible lech, and I was very upset, and so was his wife. It was a stroke of fate that would forever link Liz to the Carry On series. Despite appearing in only 4 of 31 films, Liz is always considered a Carry On girl. Hattie Jakes, originally cast as Delia King in Carry On Regardless, fell ill just before filming. Liz stepped in at the last moment, taking on the role and cementing her place in Carry On history. Liz would say that Carry On Regardless was most definitely her favourite Carry On film. She would go on to light up the screen in 3 more Carry On films, including as Glad Trimble in Carry On Cruising, 1962, then as the feisty Sally in Carry On Cabby, 1963, and finally as Sylvia Ramsden in Carry On Behind, 1975. Unwilling to accept the low wages offered to actors in the series, Liz refused to sign a restrictive contract that would have had her tied to multiple films without knowing the details in advance. When she stood her ground, she was quietly shut out, despite being a fan favourite. That didn't stop her. Liz continued to carve out a successful career in British television and film, proving that she was far more than just a Carry On star. In fact, her agent had said to her after Carry On Cruising that if she continued to make Carry On films, she would never be able to get any other work. Liz recognised that she was a character actress, and she did successfully play straight roles, including Molly Thompson in the 1966 film The Family Way, alongside famous father and daughter duo John and Hayley Mills. And Liz would play the part of Mrs. McCarthy in 1968's Up the Junction. Despite her hesitation, Liz did make it to Hollywood and filmed the Americanization of Emily, which was released in 1964 and starred James Garner and Julie Andrews. January the 7th, 1965, Liz married Bill Hitchcock. Desperate for children but unable to conceive, she suggested adoption, but Bill, already a father from a previous marriage, refused. Heartbroken but resilient, Liz found comfort in an unexpected passion. Basset hounds. She doted on them, pouring into them the love that she had longed to give a child. Liz was also still passionate about greyhounds and began investing in some. Every Sunday she would go along with a bag of cooked chicken to visit her investment, Quinella Queen, at Hackney Stadium, who pretty much always lost. Liz's passion for animals continued to the end of her life, and she made sure she left money to the Greyhound Rescue Charity, among other animal charities, in her will. The death of Tony Hancock in 1968 was a devastating blow for Liz. She was heartbroken when she heard the news. In response, she dedicated herself to helping others, becoming a volunteer for the Samaritans, a role she would hold for 13 years. Identified as Elizabeth 200, her experiences during this time were profound, so much so there is an entire chapter to them in her autobiography. But her charitable work didn't stop there. Over the years, Liz also devoted time to several organisations, including the Variety Club of Great Britain. While she was supporting others through their struggles, Liz was facing her own personal turmoil. By the early 1970s, her husband Bill was drinking heavily and had returned to his old ways, engaging in multiple affairs, including with his secretary and his personal assistant. Their marriage was crumbling. In an attempt to reclaim her sense of self, Liz took a break, travelling to Los Angeles to visit a friend. Before leaving, she gave Bill an ultimatum. Things had to change, or their marriage would come to an end. Determined to make things right, Bill ended his latest affair and promised to work on their relationship. Filled with hope, Liz returned home on February the 27th, 1974, bringing gifts for Bill and looking forward to a fresh start. But in a tragic twist of fate, the reunion turned to heartbreak. After Bill unwrapped his presents, Liz stepped into the kitchen to make a coffee. When she returned, she found him unconscious on the floor. Despite efforts to save him, Bill passed away later that day from a pulmonary embolism. After Bill's passing, Liz was offered a 5-month run in the play Move Over Mrs. Markham. Grateful for the distraction, she accepted. But just as rehearsals began, she noticed a lump in her abdomen. Doctors quickly confirmed the worst. She needed an urgent hysterectomy. The surgery was more intense than she had expected. The growth they removed was the size of a 6-month pregnancy. As she recovered in the hospital, still weak and in pain, her agent arrived with devastating news. Her role in the play had been given to Linda Barron. Liz was furious. She refused to let her career slip away. Against medical advice, she checked herself out of the hospital, barely able to stand. Determined, she arrived at the theatre, ready to fight for her place. And it worked. By contract, if she was willing to perform, they had no choice but to pay her for the full season. With sheer willpower, Liz powered through. 8 shows a week, never missing a single one. Looking back, she called it one of her best decisions of her life, believing it helped her cope with the pain. However, her health struggles weren't over. In 1978, Liz found another lump, this time in her breast. While still working, she underwent a partial mastectomy. She endured 10 weeks of radiation therapy, keeping it a secret from the public, all while continuing to appear on Give Us a Clue and Robin's Nest. It was, in her words, the worst acting experience of her life. She felt dreadfully ill but pushed through. A year later, she found yet another lump in the same breast, another surgery, and still she refused to slow down, even signing up for Celebrity It's a Knockout. Then, in 1980, while touring with the play The Outside Edge, Liz needed a third operation. This time, she'd developed a severe infection, gangrene. But after a long, gruelling battle, she was finally declared cancer-free and underwent breast reconstruction. Liz's story is one of relentless determination, refusing to let illness define her. No matter what life threw at her, she kept going, proving that nothing, not even cancer, could dim her unstoppable spirit. 1980 was a devastating year for Liz. That was also the year that she lost her mother, a woman she remembered as kind, loving and endlessly devoted to ensuring Liz received a good education. Wanting to protect her, Liz had never told her about her own cancer diagnosis. Just 6 months later, heartbreak struck again. Liz's beloved brother, Philip, died suddenly of a heart attack. While sorting through his belongings, she made a poignant discovery. Philip had been gay. She recalled his deep bond with a close friend, Derek, who had passed away young, and how shattered Philip had been at the time. Only now did she realise that Derek had been more than a friend. He had been Philip's partner. As far as Liz knew, Philip had never found love again. Reflecting on his life, she found herself loving him even more, gaining a deeper understanding of the differences they'd shared over the years. Liz Fraser approached everything in life with unwavering dedication, and politics was no exception. A passionate supporter of the Conservative government, she particularly admired Margaret Thatcher. Over the years, she'd met the Prime Minister on numerous occasions, and the two developed a strong friendship. Liz often spoke about the political leanings of the acting world, once stating that most actors were left-wing, and even revealing that she lost a film role because of her support for Mrs. Thatcher. Following Margaret Thatcher's passing, Liz paid tribute to her in an interview with the Daily Mail, saying, "Margaret, you will be remembered as our greatest Prime Minister. You made me proud to be British." In 1988, Liz accepted the role of a woman with stomach cancer, Mrs. Dewey, in the play called Eskimos Do It. The title was explained in her character's line, "Eskimos do it, you know. They walk out into the snow when their time has come." Liz said, though it was a truly harrowing piece, I was so thrilled at being given such an excellent opportunity. Although Liz Fraser was often cast as the quintessential ditzy bombshell portraying stereotypical dumb blondes in comedy films, she was far more than just her on-screen persona. Passionate about her craft, she was equally devoted to her love of animals, her close friends, and her charitable causes she supported. Beyond her acting career, Liz took her hobbies, poker, bridge, and golf, very seriously. She was also a savvy businesswoman, making shrewd investments in property and the stock market, which resulted in a highly successful and profitable financial portfolio. Throughout the 1980s and the 90s, Liz remained a familiar face on British television, starring in beloved classics such as Agatha Christie's Miss Marple, Birds of a Feather, Minder.
Arthur Daly. I thought you were dead.
No, retired. Semi. Well, still alive.
I can see. You look well, Arthur. In the pink.
And the bill. As the 2000s arrived, she began to slow down but continued to grace our screens in shows like Last of the Summer Wine, Foyle's War and Holby City. But in 2002, Liz's life took a horrifying turn. While walking her basset hound Bracken near her home in Fulham, Liz found herself face to face with a group of 4 youths. She instinctively stepped back against a wall to let them pass. 3 of them did, but the 4th lashed out, kicking Bracken viciously before turning his aggression on Liz. A brutal punch landed squarely on her, sending a shockwave of pain through her body. And as if that weren't enough, the attacker struck Bracken again. Then, in an even more sickening action, another of the gang doubled back. With a running start, he delivered a ferocious high kick to Liz's thigh before booting Bracken into the road. The cruel assault continued as the boy unleashed a powerful swinging punch, knocking out 2 of Liz's teeth, and then, laughing, they fled, leaving Liz battered, bloodied and terrified. By the time the police arrived, the gang had vanished. Liz was left shaken to her core, traumatised by the senseless violence she had endured. Bracken, injured and frightened, required a trip to the vet. For Liz, the emotional scars lasted long after the physical wounds had healed. A simple evening walk had turned into a nightmare, one that would haunt her for years to come. This wasn't the first time she'd experienced being attacked close to her home, and felt that the police response on this occasion had been as ineffectual as the previous response. As previously mentioned, in her spare time, Liz had a keen eye for the stock market. She would study shares meticulously and, in her own words, often made a killing. Her portfolio was diverse, with investments in major companies like Vodafone, Chubb and Rentokil. But that was just the beginning. She also held shares in the pharmaceutical giant Wellcome, construction firms, BP, and household names like Marks and Spencer and Sainsbury's. Beyond the stock market, Liz wasn't afraid to take risks. She found success with ventures like the Hackney and Hendon dog tracks. However, not all of her ideas paid off. One of her more ambitious projects was a lap dancing club she launched with a friend, 15 years before they became mainstream. Her dedication to the stock market gave her the financial freedom to invest in property, building a steady stream of rental income. She owned 2 properties in Tooting, another in Elephant and Castle, and additional homes in Fulham, Brighton and Bournemouth. Acting never brought in the huge income, and residuals were rare. If she had relied solely on her earnings from the industry, making ends meet would have been a challenge. But by using her intelligence and financial savvy, she secured a stable and prosperous future beyond the stage and screen. Sadly, Liz Fraser died on the 6th of September 2018 at the Royal Brompton Hospital as a result of complications following an operation. Liz was 88 years old. Her very last performance was in 2018 in the series of Midsummer Murders, in an episode fittingly entitled Till Death Do Us Part. Liz was once asked if acting had taught her anything. Her response was, "I've been robbed and attacked. I've been in accidents. My first husband was a thief. My second husband died young. Life teaches you about life. Acting doesn't." Liz's funeral took place here at Mortlake Crematorium on the 20th of September 2018. Her ashes were later scattered in Area 6 of the Garden of Remembrance, where we are now, just slightly to the left behind the gazebo. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time, celebrating the incredible life and career of the fabulous comedy actress Liz Fraser. I hope you've enjoyed discovering more about her story as much as I have. If you love exploring the past and uncovering fascinating stories, be sure to join me again soon for another unforgettable trip through history. Until next time, take care and see you soon.